Brothers and sisters, welcome to Rebel Intel. This post will be the first in a series that will be titled and themed The Dark Secrets of the FBI's Dirty Little Sister. And I will try to make one post a day in this vein for 100 days. And preface on this, if I stop for whatever reason, it is not by my choice, if you get what I mean, because we're talking about the dark secrets of the FBI's dirty little sister. We're going to thrust straight into it on this post, covering a very controversial topic. Any way you want to look at it, we're going to go into the My Lai massacre of 1968 and what was the alleged connection of the My Lai massacre to the FBI's dirty little sister. Let's get into it. On or about 16 March 1968, Charlie Company, 1st of the 20th 11th Infantry Brigade, Americal, was attached to Task Force Barker to conduct search and destroy operations in and around the Batongan Peninsula. They were going to go into an area that they knew as Pinkville. This was an area that they knew from experience to be very hot with Viet Cong enemy activity. Well, what happened was they ended up going into a village area. Overall, it was called Son Mai, and specifically within that area, Charlie Company went into another sub-village called My Lai or My Lai 4. By the end of the day, approximately 500 unarmed civilians had been systematically murdered by this U.S. Army unit. Now, here's where we get into the cover-up and potential links with the FBI's dirty little sister. This incident was unknown to the public and had been initially reported by the Army in a paper called the Pinkville Incident as a military victory. The Army declared that they had killed 128 Viet Cong and had recovered 3 whole weapons in this operation. Well, throughout the rest of the several months between then and November of 1969, another U.S. Army soldier by the name of Ron Ridenour had talked to several soldiers who were there, and they kept telling him that it was a massacre. He heard so many stories from so many fellow soldiers that it caused him to write a letter that he sent to the president, who was Nixon at that time, the Pentagon, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Congress, and numerous others, and nobody ever even responded to him. Well, at some point, he ended up running into Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist Seymour Hersh, who ended up breaking the story. Once Hersh broke the story, it caused the U.S. government to conduct an investigation. Due to rumors swirling around before the official Army investigation, the Army conducted an initial investigation that was basically a whitewash cover-up. They ultimately determined that there were approximately 20 civilians killed, mostly due to fratricide, being at the wrong place at the wrong time and getting in crossfire, or to random explosions of munitions. Now, once the story from Hersh broke, U.S. Army General and Commander in the theater, Westmoreland, got U.S. Army General William Peers to conduct a full-blown, formal, official investigation. And I'm going to get into just a little bit more detail on Peers and his report in just a second. But ultimately, he conducted an exhaustive investigation. He interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of personnel. He ended up examining over 28,000 pages of documents. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he concluded that there was a cover-up from the top to the bottom. In his words, from the general to the private. Now, we know that the private part is bullshit because privates don't attempt a cover-up. They operate on orders. So this went all the way up to the 11th Brigade, if not the Americal division level. Here's some interesting additional details about Peers and his report. Regarding his report, he was given specific boundaries to investigate just the My Lai incident and just the Americal division's involvement in it. And General Peers is actually former CIA. He was recruited into the OSS in 1943 during World War II, and he had been conducting guerrilla activity actually at the instructor level since about that time. So he was basically an old school OSS and then later CIA agent or officer conducting paramilitary guerrilla training in Indochina since 1943. In March of 1973, the FBI's dirty little sister became very interested in a newspaper article from the Oklahoman by a journalist named Jack Taylor. As the story goes, multiple anonymous sources from the Pentagon approached Taylor and offered him additional details regarding the My Lai massacre, and specifically they charged that the CIA ordered the U.S. Army to conduct the My Lai massacre to send the enemy a message. Now, the FBI's dirty little sister turned to the report from General Pierce and said, hey, General Pierce has conducted an exhaustive, extensive, formal and official investigation in this, and it clears the FBI's dirty little sister of any wrongdoing. But here's what we do know. We do know that the FBI's dirty little sister was conducting the Phoenix program. We do know that there were American civilian advisors to South Vietnam who were influential in the planning phase for this whole operation involving the My Lai massacre. We do know that General Pierce is former CIA, and we do know that his investigation was given a specific scope limit or ceiling, specifically to not investigate anything outside of My Lai or that area in general, and Americal Division's involvement in it, which excluded investigating links to any entity outside of Americal, i.e. the CIA.